help me understand what you feel. Have you read the charter? Good man. Why did I know you would have done that, Alan? Based on what you've read, based on your understanding of how all of our constituent parts work, town meeting, Board of Selectmen, FinCom, all the moving pieces, the form of government itself, our administrative function, the electoral system, and the appointment system. Based on all of that, can you give us not your conclusions, but your questions as to what areas of the charter you think should be visited and really studied as far as providing an effective form of government?
I'll do that. Just one thing to go back. When I read the charter basically says that the committee is going to make recommendations which go to the board. Therefore, I didn't really understand the previous person, where he said you couldn't do this, you couldn't do that. My opinion is that if there is no way that we can take what exists and modify the system with the times as they change, then maybe we have to look at another form of how the town government works. We maybe end up having to have like districts with representatives from a district. There's different things we can look at and do. We just can't, say that, okay, town meeting doesn't work anymore, that's it, throw it out. It would be nice to, as I said before, to find a way to keep it there. We have some areas in which personnel are handled. We have some areas in the town charter about how we pay or budgets, and then there's a corresponding area where basically the town administrator has overall control. There's areas of gray, and when you have areas of gray, you have some problems as far as how things work function-wise. But it really, to me, goes back to the participation of the town. Whatever government we have has to represent everybody in the town.
Well, you're right. Your recommendations go to the board, but ultimately, it goes to town meeting, and ultimately, it goes to the ballot.
Correct.
So every voter in the community would have an opportunity to vote on whatever substantive changes there are. So I have no clue what that litany of restrictions was about, but I can tell you that there is legal process, and obviously we'd all want to follow it.
The charter says that also.
Yeah, but many communities have faced the question and have followed the procedure properly, apparently, because the AG certainly approved their change. So you answered my question. I thank you for stepping up to serve.
Yeah. And Falmouth has actually done what you said. They changed from a town meeting and they made a move, and it hasn't really worked well, but the other towns have gone back and forth. It's a very difficult answer.
I'm not at all convinced that we need to lose our concept of town meeting, but I am convinced that we need to have a serious dialogue about it.
I agree with you.
Selectman Cronin?
Well, Alan, good to see you again. I haven't talked to you in a while.
At least a day or two.
Simple question. I was just curious. In your opinion, is this charter outdated?
It needs to be tweaked and moved if we're going to continue with the town meeting system. As I said before, we need to modify some things. If we're going to change how we govern ourselves, then the town charter needs some drastic change. So it's not a simple answer, yes or no. It depends on how we're going to run the government. Are we going to stay with the town meeting, or are we going to change?
Okay, well, then I guess in that context, what I would add is to critically think through the whole document and decide what's in the best interest of the town. A good question that should come up is, how did the role of volunteers work in the current government, and how much can you rely on volunteers? And the same goes for town meeting, and you talked about cross-section, where you don't get a cross-section of what's really there in the population of the town. I think those things have to, need to be, good questions need to be brought up about that and reviewed.
It's important. If we don't have representation from every part of the town, you don't get a true fix, and you get like a win-lose situation, and that always ends up, there's no good end to it. You know, and I'm involved in a lot of different committees, obviously, as you know, and it's interesting to see the interaction of each committee, how each one functions differently and has, you know, different attitudes as far as how the government works here, and how we really don't meet together and we don't talk together, which is another real problem. And we end up doing work on top of each other. It's not productive.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Patricia Rumney. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, I'm Pat Rumney, and I live in West Wareham.
Okay.
Moved to Wareham in 1975.
Selectman Ekstrom?
I have no questions. Thanks, Brad.
Okay.
Thank you, Brenda.
Selectman Donahue's question, what made you wish to apply for the Charter Review Committee?
Well, I have the time, and I like volunteering. As I have said many times over, I think everybody in the town knows, I only answer to my dog, so I have plenty of time. Shadow. Yeah, and you remembered, Brenda. And so that's my reason. You know, I have the time, and I think it's something important, and that's why I want to do it.
All right. Selectman Savageau?
No.
Selectman Cronin?
Pat, how you been? I haven't seen you since LL Bean.
The LL Bean, yes.
I just had the one basic thing. You've read the charter, obviously,
Yes.
many times. You think it's outdated?
Yes, I do think it's outdated. And I did do a short outline that I could share with you.
Sure.
I don't have an agenda on this
Okay.
charter, but I think everything has to be looked at, and you have to go outside the box and be creative. And one of the things that I noticed when I was on the FinCom, that the timeline for submission of the budget being December 15th from the town administrator to the FinCom. It's very hard, because I know when I was on the FinCom, we seemed to get a budget updated almost weekly, because you couldn't really have a real good proposed budget until we got the stuff from the governor and we knew what he was going to do. And now today, he changes his mind in mid, I don't even want to talk about that. And so that's one of the things that I was questioning. And then maybe town meeting should be held on a Saturday instead of that Monday night. I don't know if that would help, but it might be something that has to be looked at. Then the Board of Selectmen, they're the chief policy makers,